Welcome to The Fight on Matrix Midwest with Randy Carricker and company.
Hi kids, welcome to The Fight. Great to have you with us. That is Andrew, I'm Randy, and coming up, the Blues are getting some great Olympic production, aren't they?
Yeah, it's about time we see some good hockey here in St. Louis.
Yeah, really. And some not so great production. Masyn Winn is healthy for the Cardinals, and we have the list, the greatest returns to original teams in sports. But let's get things started with our quick hits. And the amazing Billikens just keep winning. They keep blowing their opponents out. The Bills blasted Loyola 86-59 over the weekend. During their 18-game winning streak, the Bills have won by a dozen games by more than 20 points and 3 more by 10 or more. The only single-digit wins during this 18-game stretch were a 9-point win at VCU, a 4-point win at Duquesne, and a 3-point win at home over George Washington. The Billikens lead the nation in point differential, winning games by an average of 23.4 points per game. A full point and a half more than Michigan wins by. The second place Wolverines through the fourth place teams in differential are separated by 1.4 points. The Billikens, not only great, but absolutely dominant.
And this game is hard to measure because basketball in Loyola really hasn't been good since Sister Jean, right? Mm-hmm. And this SLU team will start to face off against teams back in the territory that they need to belong in as they head into tournament time. 4 of the next 5 teams that they'll see are above 500 in the A10 standings. But you mentioned Michigan, and this is interesting because so many times you want to say, well, Michigan, that's a Big Ten school. They're in a Power 5 conference. SLU's just not that. But if you look at the overall category polling from SLU, they're not like a High Point that's just good at shooting the 3-ball this year. They're good in multiple categories, and that's what makes them so special. They're like a St. Mary's team as they enter the tournament because they will be a 5 or a 6 seed at the rate they're playing basketball right now because they can score, they can defend, and they can really do a lot of great things on the floor.
Yeah, top 5 offense, and we don't talk about it enough, but the top 5 defense, because of their shooting and because of their prolific scoring, we touch on that. It's kind of like the greatest show on turf with the Rams. We didn't talk about the great defense that team had. This St. Louis U team is capable of defending against the best, and they can play multiple different lineups. They can play a big lineup. They can play a smaller lineup to guard against them, a quicker lineup. There's a lot of different things that Josh Schertz has at his disposal. The TV sports landscape is ever-changing as the Cardinals prepare to air their games under the MLB umbrella this season. FanDuel Sports parent company Main Street Sports submitted a workers' adjustment and retraining notification, a WARN, to the state of Missouri over the weekend. That means FanDuel is preparing to lay off its staff in mid-April as the Blues season ends. So the Blues and the Billikens are going to basically have to find new broadcast outlets for next year. Main Street also said it plans to close its offices at Ballpark Village. A lot of good people are going to be put out of work because of the failure of this company, and it's been a long time coming, unfortunately. They've been in bankruptcy, they've come out of bankruptcy, and they just don't know how to run this business in 2026.
Yeah, a lot of chaos, right? A lot of uncertainty, and yes, you do feel bad for those that are going to lose a job over this, but at the same time, you also feel bad for the fan that's going to have to now figure out where the Blues are going to be played, where's SLU going to be played. And when we had Chip Carey on the show last week, one of the big things he said was, watching the Cardinals on 7 different networks is not he's not a big fan of that method, and that's what's going to happen as you kind of make this shift. Is it going to be streaming only? Are they going to have a channel? Because growing up, I had Spectrum. It was always, you could see the Blues on channel 37, the Cardinals on channel 37. Now, where is that going to be? Even though I'm a huge streaming lover, I don't like more subscriptions. I don't like more apps, so there is a cap to my sanity.
And the Cardinals are insistent upon having their games on television because their demographic skews older, and those people want to be able to just sit down and watch their cable or their dish. It'll just be on a different channel in 2026, but it'll be there for the foreseeable future for the Cardinals. Hockey, Dalibor Dvorsky of the Blues has been great for Slovakia at the Olympics so far. He has 2 goals and 2 assists in 3 games. Other Blues have had their moments. Jordan Binnington had a shutout in his Olympics debut and got a 10-2 win over France. Pius Suter has a couple of goals in 2 games for Switzerland. Philip Broberg doesn't have a point in his 3 games for Sweden, and Colton Parayko has gone scoreless in his 3 for Canada. In a 10-2 win over France, Colton was a -1 over the weekend.
Yeah,
Yikes.
not great. Not great knowing that you're on the ice and that production isn't coming and you're one of the 4 others out there with a goal scorer. It's bizarre to say Colton Parayko, knowing that he is one of the top defensemen on Team Canada, is not out there to get a better plus-minus rating, but that's beside the point, right? The big thing to focus on is Jordan Binnington's play. Shocker, right? Shocker that he is performing in the Olympics. Who would have thought that? Oh, yeah, the guys on this desk said don't give up on Jordan Binnington just yet, because now he's probably going to play his way into a trade. He's looked fantastic, and that's what happens, though, when you have good players in front of you. He's feeling that confidence. He hasn't been feeling that same way with the Blues this year.
But I don't know if they will move him, because what's the one thing that you need most of all to win a Stanley Cup?
Good goaltending.
Good goaltending, right? They know they can win a Stanley Cup with Jordan Binnington between the pipes. It's not going to be in 25-26, but this is a pretty talented team, and if they get healthy, they might not be far away. By the time Binnington is ready to win again, the team might be ready to win again also.
Let me set the record straight. I don't want the team to move on from Binnington, but with all the talks happening this season about is Binner still the guy, there wouldn't be a better time to move him outside of this window as he chases another gold medal.
They better be sure that Joel Hofer is not another Ville Husso, right? They better make sure that they have a goalie to replace Binnington if Binnington is not going to be in St. Louis.
And it's hard to just get behind a replacement.
Yep. The NBA fined the Utah Jazz $500,000 and the Indiana Pacers $100,000 for their tanking actions in the last couple of weeks. Adam Silver, the commissioner of the league, said tanking has been, quote, worse this year than we've seen it in recent memory. And he's considering every possible remedy, including taking away draft picks from offending teams. Silver added about teams that are holding players out to lose games. It's part of my job to remind everybody. I understand what your short-term interests may be, but we better not lose sight of our fans here. We better not lose sight of the people who support this league day in and day out. I'm glad the commissioner said that, and I hope he's saying it to the people in charge.
Yeah, because it's all about league credibility at this point, and you don't want to lose that sort of credibility as teams sit players in the entire fourth quarter, and when it looks as though you are tanking for a better draft spot. And I'll say this too, Randy, and I don't understand it all that well, and I'm not going to pretend like I do, but the way that picks are traded in the NBA is wild to me. It's crazy. You look at if Indiana lands between the 5th and 9th spot in the draft, that pick goes to the Clippers. The 5th and 9th spot. And if that doesn't happen, what pick comes next? It's just like when like the Thunder are going to get the Jazz pick most likely. If not this year, they're going to get one in 2031. It's just, I don't understand how the pieces get put in place as trades happen in the NBA.
And there's a lot of ideas to stop tanking. How about the idea of just having the team with the best record that doesn't make the playoffs get the first pick in the draft?
Yeah, I don't mind that.
And somebody's talked on ESPN radio about giving up the draft. Well, then you'll have 5 college guys that all get together and they want to go to one team. And by the way, if you do that, if you get rid of the draft, buy Oklahoma City, buy San Antonio, you aren't going to have them. You're going to have the smaller market teams, buy Indiana. They're not going to have a chance. Even though Cardinal shortstop Masyn Winn won a Gold Glove last season, he wasn't happy with the offensive output that saw his on-base percentage drop to .310 and his OPS fall to .673. But as Winn told First Alert 4's Tamar Scher, it turns out the injuries that put him on the shelf, especially his knee, caused him lots of problems.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing was coming back from a meniscus surgery, rehabbing, doing legs just about every day, running a lot. But I think it's really just trying to get my athleticism back. I feel like last year I was, stuck on one leg in the box, so I couldn't really move too much. But it was weird. I didn't think it was affecting me too much until I got healthy. And then now looking back on it, it's like, man, I was really going through some stuff. So, I worked a lot with the legs, just trying to get my athleticism back. And I think it's really going to translate in the box. I think last year, like I said, I was really kind of set in stone, wasn't able to move as much as I would have wanted to, and going into this year, just being fluid.
How do you feel?
No, I feel great. I mean, I ended up walking out of surgery. It was a blessing. It was really kind of we had to fix what happened my first surgery, and that was kind of what the issues were. But I walked out of surgery, started PT the next day, and it's been off to the races for a little while now.
In the minors and in his rookie year, he was a good offensive player, and I think we should expect more offense this year from a healthy Winn.
And I think he was a little bit hard on himself too, because I don't think his numbers dropped that hard or as far, I should say, as he kind of laid that out to be. But at the same time, as an athlete and as other athletes out there know this too, if you play at 80%, it's really difficult to know what 100% feels like, because that competitor in you just blocks out that pain. Seeing him confident now that he's 100% healthy would only tell me that he's going to be better in 2026.
Next Monday at noon, our first spring training telecast here on Matrix Midwest as the Cardinals take on Miami. Those are your quick hits. And coming up here in the fight, well, first of all, later in the show, we're going to have some risky business. We're going to give a parlay to you guys, which is very important. But next up, our highlights here in the fight. Time now for our takes on the weekend in the sports world, and we'll start with Mizzou basketball. The Tigers suffered a major home loss to Texas. Mizzou and the Longhorns are bubble mates, both probably among the last four in or the first four out. So this loss by Mizzou at home and in blowout fashion was a major shot. Mizzou still has 3 chances against ranked teams, Vanderbilt, and 2 against Arkansas, but now they probably need to run the table to be assured of a spot. That being said, at ESPN.com, Andrew, Joe Lunardi still has Mizzou in the tournament, along with Texas as one of the last 4 in the field of 68.
And I think Texas is probably that team after this win that is not a last 4 in, just in team. And I think Mizzou is going to fall back out into the first 4 out. Unless they get a signature win, say, against Vanderbilt, there is a possibility Mizzou can still play their way into the tournament. It's not over just yet. It just gets a lot harder, because after a road win over Texas A&M, you would have thought, wow, this team they're pretty much set up to make their way in. All they have to do is get that 1 win against Arkansas. But no, instead, it's our quad 1 schedule looks like a 3-4 record, and it might easily look like 3-7 all said and done this season.
No more losses to unranked teams, and you have to win 2 of those against your ranked opponents, Vanderbilt, and then 1 against Arkansas. And you have to go into the SEC tournament and probably win a game or 2. But first and foremost, they can't lose another game to an unranked team. That was their one mulligan against Texas.
Yeah, and they have Oklahoma and Mississippi State.
Should be winnable games.
Yeah, both of those should be winnable. And earlier this season, Mizzou only lost by 1 point to Oklahoma. And you don't also have those big non-con wins this year either, right? Last year they had Kansas, which really helped propel them. They don't have that this year.
Illinois got back to their winning ways with a 20-point win over Indiana, a football school. The Fighting Illini entered the day as the most efficient offensive team in KenPom history. Did you know they're also the tallest team in college basketball this season? David Mirkovich led all scorers with 25 points on the afternoon. Freshman Keaton Wagler scored 18, and Tomislav Ivicevic added 14 points. The Illini head out to the West Coast this week. They'll take on USC Wednesday and UCLA on Saturday. And they're kind of flying under the radar. And those 2 losses might have actually helped them fly under the radar. This is a team that very well could go to the Final Four this year. Once you get there, well, obviously it's March Madness. Anything can happen. But this is a team that can go all the way. They can put together 6 in March, no doubt about it.
And let me tell you what makes this team so different, because all we do is talk about Illinois as an offensive team, but they didn't shoot the ball all that well in this basketball game. Yes, they shot 43% from the field, but they were only like 7 of 31 from downtown. What really stands out to me is they won this game by 20. And they didn't shoot the ball well, which speaks volumes about this team defensively just as much as it does on the offensive end.
And oh, by the way, at some point, Brad Underwood is going to have to win those tournament games. You know, people always say, oh, he never wins a big game. Yeah, you go to the NCAA tournament, you've won big games. But he's going to have to win in the tournament, and he's going to have to win consistently in the tournament and get to a Final Four. All right, up to baseball. Last year, after the season, Phillies President of Baseball Operations Dave Dombrowski asked rhetorically about Bryce Harper's being elite. He asked, quote, can he rise to the next level again? I don't really know the answer. He's the one that'll dictate that more than anything else. I don't think he's content with the year that he had. Again, it wasn't a bad year, but when I think of Bryce Harper, you think elite. You think one of the top 10 players in baseball. And I don't think it fit into that category. Well, this weekend in Florida, Harper responded to those comments.
I don't get motivated by that kind of stuff. You know, for me, it's was kind of wild, the whole situation of that happening. I think the big thing for me was, when we first met with this organization, it was, hey, we're always going to keep things in-house, and we expect you to do the same thing. And so, when that didn't happen, kind of took me for a run a little bit.
Hey, Bryce, we're going to give you some grace because we know you left school when you were 16 years old. But now we have this thing called the internet, and it's not in-house just for the Phillies. Everyone can see your stats. We don't need Dave Dombrowski to tell us that you had your worst OPS since 2016. And oh, by the way, he was quite complimentary of you for you to be whining about it.
I don't think he even said anything that bad.
No.
I think Harper took this all out of context. All Dombrowski said was, he didn't play at an elite level. That's it.
Right.
He didn't play at an elite level.
Yep.
And you can say those things about your superstar of a player because he pays you $330 million. If you are the highest paid player on a baseball team, you are going to be under a microscope. Everything you do is going to be touched on in every little way.
And we sat here all last season on this show, On the Fight, talking about the year that Bryce Harper was having, that it wasn't elite anymore. We aren't in the Phillies offices. We didn't have to be in-house behind closed doors with the Phillies to know that Bryce Harper wasn't having an elite season. And you know what? 33 years old, headed to 34, obviously. He's probably not going to be that player he was anymore. Don't complain about it. If you think that you should be thought of as better than that, be better than that. If you don't like it, play better.
Isn't it crazy, too, that he's only 6 years away from the end of that contract?
Yeah, oh man, it's unbelievable.
He gets a 13-year deal, and Harper's already on the back end of that contract.
And he wants an extension.
Right.
Yeah. Football, the NFL won its grievance against the NFLPA, effectively banning the union from publishing future player report cards, according to a memo distributed to all 32 NFL teams and obtained by ESPN. The NFLPA said it will continue collecting the report card responses, even if they can't make them public. They should just send out the report card to all the players in an email, and then it'll become public anyway. But we all need to know that the Chiefs are terrible at taking care of the players, that the Cardinals are terrible at taking care of their players, and that the Dolphins, despite the fact that they suck generally, are really good at taking care of their players. We need to know that.
And it's just another reason to hate owners, right?
Yeah.
Because they just don't want to be held accountable for anything at all. You want to get public money for all of your things, yet you don't want to be held accountable when your work conditions are bad.
Yeah.
That's what makes me laugh. And then in the social media world, you said it, and you didn't actually fully say it, but you kind of implied it. In the social media world, if this gets sent to the players, somebody is leaking this.
Somebody's sending it to Adam Schefter.
Right. Somebody is going to leak these report cards, and they're getting out to us anyway. So this stops nothing.
Yeah. When your minimum salary is $1 million a year, you know what? Somebody else can watch your kids. The team shouldn't have to pay for you to watch. And the teams are already hiring chefs. They say, oh, the food's bad. The teams all have full-time chefs to feed the players. Now, there are some organizations that do it way better than others. But basically, football players in the NFL have it pretty good.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I'd love to have their money.
Yeah. Golf at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, an incredible horse race on the back nine. Colin Morikawa gets back into the winner's circle in the place where it all began for him. He shot 5 under in round 4, taking the tournament at 22 under. 13 players finished within 4 shots of the lead, including Scotty Scheffler, who was tied for the lead late and was the clubhouse leader when he finished with a day's best 63 on Sunday. Scotty finished 2 behind Morikawa, tied for 3rd alongside Andrew's champion choice, Tommy Fleetwood. Scotty hasn't had the best first day the last couple of weeks, but he sure is good on the last day.
Yeah, he's very good for 2, 3, and 4. Just think about if he had a good day. When Scotty Scheffler has a good day again, he's going to win the tournament. That plus 295 that you see on Thursday, hey, Mr. Favorite to win the tournament, will actually come to fruition. That's just the type of player Scotty is. But good for Colin Morikawa. I felt bad for Akshay Patia. He kind of fumbled the bag after leading after 54 holes. But in general, I was really impressed with how ever-changing the leaderboard was and the conditions that these guys had to play in.
And the fact that on Sunday afternoon, you can count on Scotty Scheffler being there and playing well on the back nine. You tune in late Sunday afternoon, and it's just like it was with Tiger Woods. You don't know what happened in the first 3 days of the tournament. You tune in late on Sunday afternoon, and there's Scotty Scheffler on the leaderboard. It's unbelievable.
9 under that day.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. And on the LIV Tour, Anthony Kim, who hadn't won a tournament in 16 years and was away from competitive golf for 12, took home the trophy in Australia on the Live Tour. Now, that's not such a big deal. He beat out second place Jon Rahm and third place Bryson DeChambeau. But when you don't win for 16 and didn't play for 12 competitively, and you win a tournament, I don't care where it is, congratulations to you.
I don't even remember that guy.
You know?
I do not remember Anthony Kim at all. I do know Jon Rahm and DeChambeau, though.
There you go. Anthony Kim, when Tiger got hurt the first time, was going to be the guy.
Really?
Yeah, he was 25, 26 years old, and he was going to be the successor to the injured Tiger Woods.
There you go. So see, which was what, 2008, roughly, based on how that maths? And
That's exactly right.
yeah, so 2008, yeah, that would make sense why I just don't really remember it.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. And that tour, you know, for all of the losses, when you talk about losing Rahm and you talk about losing Bryson DeChambeau, they really haven't lost much. When you look at the PGA Tour and look at that leaderboard and the group that you had yesterday rumbling down the stretch, you don't need Bryson DeChambeau and Jon Rahm. I really do think that you've got a legitimate tour in the PGA Tour and an illegitimate tour in the Live Tour, and that's just the way it is. And Colin Morikawa not going, smart move. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler not going, smart move. Koepka's going to come back, but he's going to be playing a lot more competition than I think that he thought there was going to be when he left in the first place.
Yeah, if you didn't have Scotty Scheffler, then this would be an entirely different conversation. But you have the next great thing always in the mix, along with other great players that we all know the names of.
Yeah, and by the way, we wanted to tell you, as we did in our first segment, next Monday we're going to have our first Matrix Midwest Spring Training game. The Cardinals starting games in spring training. We'll have 8 of them here on Matrix Midwest starting next Monday. Our next game after that will be Saturday, March 7th. But we're really looking forward to bringing you Cardinal baseball and this young team growing up. And I think this is an intriguing spring training because we're going to hopefully start finding out about the young pitchers that they got. It's going to take for the regular season, I think, for us to find out about Gorman, for us to find out about Scott, for us to find out about Walker, healthy Masyn Winn. But when you get to see Richard Fitz out there, when you get to see the young pitchers like Liam Doyle, when you get to see Quinn Matthews being healthy, I think that'll be the fun part for me is watching the pitching on an everyday basis.
Yeah, this is a see what you got type of return for the Cardinals as you get rid of all of your veterans and say we're making this shift in its entirety. Let's see what you actually have in front of you. I love watching workouts. I love seeing players swing the bat in the cage. I'm so ready to see it actually in game form.
And we will have 8 games for you during spring training and then another 10. It's Friday Night Baseball for you during the regular season with the Cardinals on Matrix Midwest. Coming up in the list with, and there you have a home plate. We're also going to have a condensed game every day. Did you know that? We're going to do an hour-long condensed game every single day.
I love that.
After the Cardinals play.
I know a lot of people knock that because in the world we live in, yes, you can see the score right away, no matter what. But this will give everybody the opportunity to actually watch the highlights like you wanted to when you were growing up watching SportsCenter.
Right, exactly. You want to see Hunter Dobbins' pitch selection in the 4th inning. You'll be able to see it in quick fashion the next day here on Matrix Midwest. Coming up in the list with Justin Verlander signing with the Tigers, our favorite sports return engagements of all time. After seeing Justin Verlander return to the Tigers on a 1-year deal, we decided to rank our favorite returns to a franchise after departing. And I'm going to start with my number 3 in football. Quarterback Fran Tarkenton spent the first 6 years of his career with the Minnesota Vikings. Then he was traded to the Giants and spent 5 in New York, but he returned triumphantly to Minnesota, leading the Vikings to the Super Bowl in 1973, 1974, and 1976. Unfortunately, his team didn't win any of those Super Bowls, but Tarkenton retired as the NFL's all-time passing yards leader with 47,003. He held that record for 17 years until Dan Marino broke it in 1995. And as you can see, the quarterbacks that you see running around now and scrambling, Fran Tarkenton was the first of the real scramblers that succeeded in the NFL. Watch him run around. Well, just take a look at any play that he has. And by the way, he can throw too. This is a great throw to John Gilliam for a touchdown for the Vikings, number 10. Now watch him run around here. There he goes, throwing on the run. He was really good, and this is my favorite one. Whoop, whoop. and then he's going to find a receiver, and whoop, oh, there's somebody rushing the passer, but I'm still going to throw it. And
Fake out.
Up. And he could run. He was a scrambler, scrambling Fran Tarkenton, going back to Minnesota and leading them to 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it's amazing, too, watching those highlights and seeing how the lines are painted on the field, where the goalposts are located in the end zone. But, yeah, I think what you pointed out there, throwing on the move and how impactful that was to the time period. Fran Tarkenton just doing things better than anybody for, 17, 18 years before Dan Marino. That's pretty cool.
And now you see even the big guys like Drake May and like Sam Darnold being able to do it. You have to be able to move now in the NFL.
And Fran Tarkenton's just a great name.
Oh, yeah.
Sir
Francis was his nickname.
Sir Francis. That's a great start there. Okay, my number 3, Randy. Ichiro's return to Seattle wasn't about chasing stats. It was about finishing the story where it all began. How every good story ends, right? After stints in New York and Miami, he came back to Seattle to close out a legendary career in front of the fan base that first embraced him. And I also think that's true, too, here when he walked off the field for the last time in front of the crowd in Japan, talking about being embraced for the very first time. 2019 was Suzuki's 19th season in Major League Baseball, including the 9 he played in Japan before. That's 28 seasons playing in baseball's top-tiered leagues, which eclipsed the record of most seasons played by a position player. Just to give perspective, Nolan Ryan played 27 seasons, for anyone counting at home. His final days in a Mariners uniform felt more like a celebration over an era of, over a normal roster move, I should say. And it's just one of the many great full-circle moments for the oldest player in baseball at the time.
And he never really has retired. He still shows up and he still gets into uniform and still participates in BP. And he's still in great shape, even though he's now in the Hall of Fame. But Ichiro's return was perfect because he wouldn't have been able to do those sorts of things, like we saw the last appearance in Japan. But then being in Seattle and participating with the team on a regular basis, I think it'd be different if he hadn't retired there. So I think this one worked out great.
I think he's going to get buried in that jersey. Whenever his time comes, he's going to get buried in the Ichiro Suzuki Mariners jersey. Just full baseball outfit. That's how he sleeps, right? He goes to bed wearing that jersey.
Yeah, he loves the sport, no doubt about it. All right, my number 2 is the big unit. Randy Johnson was an inaugural member of the Arizona Diamondbacks in 1998 and helped lead them to their first World Series title in 2001. He was awesome for the Diamondbacks his first time through. But after the 2004 season, as the D-backs tore things down, the big unit could still pitch and got himself traded to the New York Yankees. But he didn't like it. He even couldn't wear his favorite number 51 because it was retired for Bernie Williams. So the big unit came back to Arizona for 2007 and 2008, almost closing out his career where he won his world championship and is still a hero in the Valley to this day. And what a spectacular return it was for Randy Johnson.
One of the best pitchers of all time. I just remember growing up watching this guy, playing with him in video games, just the ultimate number 1 pitcher on your team. And the fact that you get a return of Randy Johnson, too, after you started with the franchise, the OG franchise, that's just what a fan wants at the end of the day, is seeing their superstar come back home. And RJ delivered that for the Diamondbacks fans.
And it is a shame that in 2026 and even in 2006, you have teams that do tear down to the studs like the Cardinals have right now. It used to be back in the day that you had veterans and you kept them around, and you had that person for people to latch onto in a town. Well, Arizona lost that for a couple of years when they lost Randy Johnson. Obviously, Seattle lost that when they lost Ichiro for a while. It's a shame that it happens now, but that's just the way of the world.
Well, and speaking of loving the game with Ichiro, Randy Johnson's also somebody that just loves sports.
Yeah.
Still being a photographer, right? Going to different sporting events and now chasing a different dream after living out one before. Pretty cool life story for Randy Johnson.
By the way, along with his former teammate, Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, and another great player.
Photographers.
Okay, my number 2, Randy. LeBron's return to Cleveland is the gold standard for sports reunions because it came with unfinished business. And he actually finished it. After leaving for Miami and winning titles, he came back to Cleveland carrying the weight of an entire city desperate for a title. 2 years later, he delivered the Cavs' first ever NBA championship, leading the greatest finals comeback in league history. They trailed 3-1 to the Warriors, and in Game 7, he posted a triple-double and made the clutch block everyone remembers on Andre Iguodala. The reunion was already well received in the beginning, but now the departure was totally forgiven.
And he walked into the perfect situation. Had the perfect situation when he went with Bosh and Dwayne Wade to Miami. Comes to Cleveland. They get Kevin Love. They've got Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie Irving was able to hit the game-winning shot for the championship. But it was perfect because LeBron from Akron, and he grew up there. They loved him, although they did burn a few jerseys when he left for Miami. But man, once he won, he was the man, and he's still the only championship that they've won since the early 60s, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Browns haven't won. Guardians haven't won. Well, the Cavaliers have.
Which is crazy to think about. And yes, when he went to Miami, of course he built that team down there with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. And that was also a little salty. Like the taste in the mouth of the Cleveland fans were started there whenever they were like, oh, well, you couldn't do that here in Cleveland, but you're fine doing that down in Miami. No, coming back and winning a championship, it's just like all sins forgiven.
And by the way, interesting comments over the weekend during the All-Star game about him perhaps closing things out in Cleveland. With where the Cavaliers are right now, they're a really good team. They just got James Harden, but they've got some good kids. I don't know that LeBron gets them closer to their goal if he's with them next year.
No, that would just be a nostalgic move.
Yeah, and I don't know if it'd help him win. I think they're too close to winning to bring him back. All right, my number one isn't a return to a franchise. It's a return to a city. Willie Mays played the first 7 years of his career in New York for the Giants and became a hero, playing ball with kids in the streets and beginning a Hall of Fame career. Then the franchise moved to San Francisco. Do you remember this catch? You were around for this catch, right? Off of Vic Wertz.
I remember it vividly.
Yeah. Well, in San Francisco, Mays played for 14 and a half more years before being traded back to New York to the Mets, who became an expansion team after the Giants and the Dodgers left. And Mays was greeted with a hero's welcome when he returned. Mays would wind up hitting .267 with 8 homers and 19 RBIs in 69 games for New York. This his first game back, and the crowd went bananas having the opportunity to watch Willie Mays return to New York and hit a home run. And then he would get a chance to play in the World Series for the 1973 Mets. So he came full circle in the city rather than for the franchise.
That's a really cool direction to take this, because when you see the Giants and you're thinking, well, yeah, we all know the Giants did not start in San Francisco. It's like, well, that makes no sense, this connection here. But seeing a guy actually return to the city, that's essentially what we're talking about here with all of these guys. It's just the team never moved for a majority of them. But for Willie Mays, you get to go back to the people that first started loving you in the sport. It's really cool to kind of see that moment, like you said, that full circle moment for him. And then my number one, Randy, I think this is the obvious one for everybody at home. Pujols' return to St. Louis felt like a decade-long heartbreak finally being healed. After 10 seasons in Anaheim, another in Los Angeles, he came back to the Cardinals in what was expected to be a quiet farewell tour. One for the locals, not nationals. Instead, he delivered one last magical run. He reached the 700 home run milestone in a Cardinals uniform. He helped push the team into the postseason. The only way to describe that feeling from start to finish that season was it started with nostalgia. That was good enough for everyone. We could have just stopped there with Albert Pujols. But when it turned into real production, it was like, oh my gosh, he's given us more than any of us could have asked for. Few returns have ever blended that emotion and on-field impact the way Pujols did in 2022.
And amazingly, at the All-Star break, Ali Marmol had to talk Pujols into not retiring. He had to say, hey, you still got something left. I'm seeing it. And then at the All-Star game, Albert was able to turn it around and hit all of those home runs after the break and get to 700 and ultimately 703. So as you said, it became something bigger than nostalgia. It became production, as he was basically the guy that led the Cardinals to the playoffs. Even though Goldschmidt was winning MVP, even though Arenado was third in the MVP voting, who was the guy in the second half for the Cardinals in 2022? It was Albert Pujols, right?
Yeah, well, and the other thing I think about too is when Wainwright was finishing his career in St. Louis and he was chasing 200 wins, right? And it was like, man, he just can't get there. It's such a struggle, but we want it so bad for him. And like that's the difference here with Pujols and Wainwright, right? When Pujols comes back, it's like, wow, he's given us everything. We don't have to wish for anything with Albert Pujols. He's just laying it out on a silver platter and just saying, here you go, guys.
And it worked out perfectly because there's no better way to retire than with the second half that he had. I'm glad that he didn't come back. Next up, we've got some risky business. We're going to give you a parlay, and hopefully we'll provide a little bit of financial help for you. That's coming up next here on The Fight. Well, guys, 14 years ago, right this minute, I was in a hospital bed at St. Luke's recovering from life-saving bypass surgery that was performed by the experts, the best heart surgeons in the region. Not only did my doctor do a spectacular job with my surgery, but St. Luke's nurses and rehabilitation experts got me back to normal, and I felt great ever since. And now, St. Luke's is the only hospital in the area to have an alliance with the Cleveland Clinic Heart, Vascular, and Thoracic Institute. St. Luke's offers expedited appointments with their heart specialists. If you're looking for a second opinion, your heart diagnosis deserves a second look, and you deserve to feel confident in your treatment plan. St. Luke's did amazing work for me, and they will do amazing work for you. Any chest discomfort whatsoever, get to a doctor. Don't just assume that you're going to be fine. Get to St. Luke's. At St. Luke's Heart and Vascular Institute, they pour their hearts into taking care of yours. Call 314-205-6801 today for world-class compassionate treatment, or log on to stlukes-stl.com. All right, time for us to build a parlay, and obviously there's not an awful lot going on now. We're in the midst of the NBA's All-Star break. We got the Olympic break for the NHL. Football is over, but you know what we have? We have college basketball, and you know who the new head football coach at Southern University is?
I think it's one of your favorite running backs of all time.
It's one of the top 5 running backs ever to play, the St. Louis Rams Hall of Famer Marshall Faulk. Now, he's going to probably be at the game because he's the head football coach. Southern University playing at Texas Southern, a 2.5-point favorite. They're such a favorite that we can't even get them on the money line. But Southern is going to cover here. I'm going to go with Marshall Faulk's Southern University to knock off Texas Southern.
I like the start there. And
Thank you.
Another big game on the slate, Houston, Iowa State. Watch out for that one in
Ooh,
the
yeah.
Big 12. But I'm not going there. I'm going all the way back to the Olympic stage, Randy, because I've been all in on men's hockey. And I was starting with Germany because I thought, man, the French team, not very good. Draisaitl, he's probably going to score, but he's minus 185. That's not fun to bet on when someone's minus 185. So I'm going to Team Switzerland instead, and I'm going to our guy, Pius Suter. Plus 195 to score a goal on Tuesday. This is a great start here.
Already got a couple of assists.
Oh, my goodness. And early in the morning on Tuesday, I'm all for it.
All right, there we go. So Pius Suter and Southern University. Let's see what we get there.
Well, it's only
We're at
$475.
okay.
It's pretty safe. So $100 will win us $475 here. And, of course, you got to put $100 in the slip. That's what we do every day, right, Randy?
Yep.
We always put $100 in.
Absolutely. All right, Marshall, get them fired up. There you go. That is building a parlay here with Risky Business here in the fight. Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It plus Story Time with Uncle Randy and this date in sports history. It's coming your way in the fight. All right, time for Take It or Leave It. And Andrew, I don't know if you know who Tyler Reddick is, do you?
Tyler Reddick.
He's a race car driver.
Yep, wouldn't have guessed.
Tyler Reddick of Michael Jordan's NASCAR team won the crash-filled Daytona 500. The crashes were great. And Jordan's team, Bubba Wallace, finished 10th in the Daytona 500. Okay, so take it or leave it. Michael is a way better NASCAR owner than an NBA owner. He already won the Daytona 500 here.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But I actually like what the Charlotte Hornets have been doing as they chase the playoffs. He's not a minority owner in the Hornets anymore?
No, he sold them a long time ago.
Oh, well then I will take that. I thought he was still a minority owner.
Oh, if he was still an owner, they would be bad.
Really bad, you think?
Oh, he was a terrible owner. Yeah.
Sometimes the best players don't make the best owners.
That's exactly right. Or the best coaches. And yeah, so he's out. And
man, I never knew he was out. I thought he still had money. I mean, this guy has so much money. I don't know why he would ever go out. Just maybe go silent.
Because he was so bad at it.
That's what I mean. Just go silent. Have a stake in it, but just stay silent.
Talk over the weekend, and Adam Silver said, hey, we're going to talk in the very near future about adding 2 expansion teams. And the NBA is pretty much already settled on Seattle and Vegas as their next 2 expansion teams. And LeBron wants to own a team in Vegas, and so that'll probably be the next player to wind up as an owner of a pro sports team.
Well, maybe LeBron will be the Tom Brady of
There you go.
versus
in Vegas.
Michael,
Yeah, right.
Why not?
So he can be a terrible owner too. Oh no, I'm sorry. The Raiders have been really, really good. I'm sorry.
Randy, they're about to be really good because they have the number 1 pick. That's what makes you good, right? The number 1 overall pick is a guarantee to be good.
Yeah, look at the St. Louis Raiders.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, they're number 1, right? No, Sam Bradford was great.
Yeah, he was great.
They even had the number 2 pick, and he was awesome in
They
a
had
different year.
multiple number 2 picks. Chris Long was a number 2 pick.
Greg Robinson, right?
Greg Robinson was a number 2 pick.
He was
Jason
awesome.
Smith was a number 2 pick. Yeah.
So if you have a high draft pick, you aren't a good team?
That doesn't make you a good team, especially if you're trying to be bad.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's change gears.
All right.
Let's talk about good teams. Team USA is a pretty good team on the hockey side of things. They took on Germany Sunday, and Matthew Tkachuk delivered what might be the greatest chirp of all time, just in terms of chirps. He said it to Leon Draisaitl, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I just love that. That's just, you really stab deep with something like that.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it. Hockey players talk trash better than any other athlete.
I'll take it. And, oh, by the way, for Matthew Tkachuk to have beaten Draisaitl in the finals 2 years in a row, for him to say it, it wasn't just some rando that said it. It was the guy that beat him and made him a bridesmaid 2 years in a row. Yeah, that is a great chirp. And hockey players, nobody was ever better than Kelly Chase. Our old friend Brendan Shanahan said, I was a great chirper, but my problem was I was like on a 1 minute delay, so I'd get back to the bench and come up with a great chirp, and then
Football players are good, like they're second tier to hockey players. That's a funny story. There's another hockey story I have for you. In college hockey, the guys in Omaha used to poke fun at people that drank anything in their coffee. And so they would yell like coffee slurs essentially to these guys. I never got it, but they loved it. They loved it.
So, okay, so we took it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move now to story time with Uncle Randy. We're going to spin the wheel. We're going to come up with a decade. We'll come up with a sport, and we're going to come up with a story for you. So that'll be fun. And we're going to go all the way back to the 1970s. Okay, so let's see if Randy can come up with a good 70s story
I'm pretty
for
sure
you.
he can.
So I don't remember all of the 70s, but I remember the late ones. Okay, so we've got the 70s hoops for you, huh?
Right.
Okay.
70s basketball.
Yeah, so 1976, Missouri Tigers. Freddie Brown was their guard. They were a good team. Mark Dressler, I think, was on that team. They were another Mizzou team that we thought had the chance to make it to the Final Four. 1976 Mizzou, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, did make it to the Elite Eight, but they didn't make it to the Final Four just because they were not blue blood. But they were sensational for that season. Norm Stewart had a great career, but never got to a Final Four. But that 1976 Mizzou team was as good as it got. They rolled through the then Big Eight, and they rolled into the tournament, had a good run in the tournament, got knocked out in the Elite Eight, but they were pretty good. And the little shooting guard named Freddie Brown was terrific.
Freddie Brown, not a name I remember. Did he ever go on to play in the NBA?
I don't believe he did, no.
Okay. Well,
But I
that's
think
okay.
Ricky Frazier might have been on that team too, by the way.
And a lot of times, look, you fizzle out as a good college basketball player. That's just where your career ends. Mine never got even close to college in any of my sports.
Yeah, and you know what? Mizzou has had a lot of those guys. Now, they've turned out a lot of good NBA players, and obviously had the great teams in the early 80s with Stipo and Sunvold and those guys that wound up in the NBA. But Norm Stewart had some runs there, and the 1976 team was probably the best team that Norm had during the 1970s at the University of Missouri.
Now, 1970s basketball, I might be way off here, and I'm just going to ask a general question.
Okay.
Now, is this UCLA's time period, or was that before?
Totally. So
70s was still UCLA?
1973, they won the championship here. 1978 might have been the best finals performance ever. Bill Walton, 22 of 23, I believe, from the floor, 44 points. Here at the St. Louis Arena, as John Wooden won his last national championship.
Wow, very last one.
Yeah.
All, 20 of them?
Yeah.
Something like that.
So, yeah, but UCLA was unbelievable. They had an 88-game winning streak during that period. Notre Dame ended that winning streak, and obviously they had Walton at center, and then once John Wooden retired, they weren't as good. But even at the end of the decade, they had Larry Brown. He wound up as a really good coach for them for a year. I think in 1979-80 is when they went to the finals and lost. But yeah, that was pretty much UCLA's decade.
It's amazing that you just rattled off a Mizzou story, and then you're like, yeah, I'll tell you another 1970 story, Andrew, since you asked.
Well, yeah. So that's what you got to do. All right, time for On This Date. And on this date in 2011, spring training 2011, Albert Pujols' self-imposed deadline for reaching agreement on a long-term contract with the Cardinals expired without a deal. Pujols had said in the winter before, I'm not giving them a hometown discount. He wanted a $300 million contract over 10 years. Didn't wind up getting that. But he says there will be no more negotiations during the season in order to avoid potential distractions. And as you can see, not many distractions. The three-time National League MVP had a great year in helping the Cardinals get to and win the 2011 World Series. He became a free agent and obviously went to the Angels and signed there for $250 million rather than $300 million, and spent 9 years with the Angels before being, as we mentioned earlier, released and winding up with the or with the LA Dodgers before coming back home. I think overall a decent signing for the Angels, even though they didn't win a playoff game with him. But it wasn't because of him. It was because they signed him and had Mike Trout, but never got pitching.
Right, and Mike Trout also was injured a majority of the time in his career, too. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, when did Shohei Ohtani get there?
Yeah, they had those three all together. But if you didn't look at Albert Pujols' name next to it, I mean, there were multiple years where Pujols had 40 or 35 home runs and 100 RBIs. And you say, if it's just a blind taste test and you cross out the name, you redact the name. That's in the news now. Redact the name and just put the numbers next to it. You say, okay, pretty good year. But because you were comparing him to Albert from 2001 to 2011, you say, oh, not that great. But you'd take that, even for $25 million a year if you were most teams.
Oh, yeah. If the Cardinals got him at the discount that he said he wasn't going to sign for, or even the contract
they
that they threw out to
$210.
him, right? Even the contract they threw out to him. You would still take that in St. Louis. Even the mediocre-ish years of Albert Pujols, you would love to have. But
the problem was we didn't have the DH at that time.
Right, and that's the thing, is you have to look at it, too, and say this worked out for the Cardinals. Not having him here, being able to go the path that they did to end up coming back to Albert Pujols.
Well, you go to the LCS in 12. You go to the World Series in 13. You go to the LCS in 14. You win 100 games in 15. And then things fell off after 15. But there were a lot of things that went into the fall off. But yeah, you had 4 really good years after Albert Pujols.
And nobody's saying
Carlos Beltran, your guy,
right,
was fantastic in his stead.
Nobody's saying that even if the Cardinals had him, that they wouldn't go to the LCS and then the World Series and whatnot. But the Cardinals still had a lot of success, is what we're saying, without Albert Pujols on the team.
So it was this date in 2011 that Albert's self-imposed deadline passed, and he wasn't going to negotiate with the Cardinals anymore. Speaking of the Cardinals, our first Redbird spring training game is next Monday at noon here on Matrix Midwest as they take on the Miami Marlins. You fired up about seeing Miami in spring training?
Oh, my goodness. I'll watch anybody in spring training as long as it's a game. Let's play some games again.
And we will have 8 spring training games for you. The next one after next Monday will be on March 7th. So we're really looking forward to that and bringing you Cardinal baseball pretty much every Friday night home game. We'll have 10 games for you here on Matrix Midwest during the regular season. You can go to matrixmidwest.com and sign up to participate in the fight. We record that every Tuesday at about noon and air it on Wednesdays. Plus, tell your friends the show is on Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock and 10 o'clock p.m., again at 7 a.m. every morning. Plus, on the Matrix Midwest app and the KMOV app, you can check out the podcast and listen in your car.
And shout out to Tamar Scher, who's down at spring training right now, giving a lot of great content that we will be showing, too, here on the show.
Yep, and she will be joined by Jacob Zersasimo down there in the near, I think he's headed down today as a matter
right
of fact.
now.
And we will be hearing from Jacob during the course of the next couple of weeks as well. Hey, we appreciate you tuning in and being a part of the fight. For Andrew Rogers and our spectacular director, Tyler Klaus, I'm Randy Carricker. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time here in the fight.